The Ahsoka show is just around the corner. The double episode premiere is on Disney Plus on the 23rd. And we do have a couple of updates, a few leaks if you will. So big spoiler warning because we are going to get into some nitty-gritty stuff that you might not want to know if you want to go in blind. Now this concerns Anakin Skywalker. Hayden Christensen was one of the first actors rumoured to appear in this series, and we didn't know if it was going to be Darth Vader in flashbacks, Anakin in flashbacks, his Force ghost, or maybe all of the above. I'm still going with all of the above. But until this point, it was just a rumour. I've even heard some folks on social media say, he's not going to appear in this series, don't be so silly. Well, it turns out, some new merch may have spoiled his role. This comes from The Direct, and they say the following. Amazon listed merchandise for the Ahsoka series on Disney Plus that seemingly spoils Anakin Skywalker's inclusion and role in the upcoming series. This comes more than a year and a half after Hayden Christensen was reported to return in this show, although his specific role was never confirmed. And we have heard that he worked on both Kenobi and Ahsoka at the same time. He shot some scenes for both. He really got in shape. He was proper, like muscular, for the Kenobi series. So a lot of this, as I say, was for Ahsoka. So what is the specific listing? An Ahsoka branding shirt featuring Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera Syndulla also included a listing for apparel featuring other characters who are going to feature in the series, and Anakin Skywalker's name appears in the group. Pretty prominently, I might add. Here's what they say. Stop looking for fashion help in old around places. Add a little out-of-this-world style to your wardrobe with some truly epic officially licensed Star Wars graphic t-shirts, sweatshirts, and hoodies. Transport yourself to a galaxy far, far away with cool new apparel featuring Ahsoka Tano, Sabine Wren, Anakin Skywalker. Did you catch that? That's the third name, Anakin Skywalker. They also list Mon Mothma and all of your other favourite Star Wars Ahsoka characters. I mean, that's pretty unmistakable, that's pretty black and white. They listed Anakin with the other Ahsoka characters. So how is he going to be used in this show? Well, I think a Force ghost, advising Ahsoka, guiding her along the way, is pretty obvious. I also think Anakin flashbacks to the Clone Wars, but considering the fact they mention him amongst these other characters who are going to be so vital to this series, tells me it's not just a cameo role. I think he's going to be recurring. I think we're going to see a lot of Anakin. And as I've said before, the appeal of Ahsoka Tano in the first place was the fact she was Anakin's Padawan before she walked away from the Jedi Order, leaving it all behind. But now that she's older, she's more mature, we're in a different time period, her views on the Force may have changed. And Anakin, who's been a Force ghost for a few years now, after Luke redeemed him in Return of the Jedi, might be a significant counselling figure in her life. So it could be a reunion, in the form of a Force ghost, or in flashbacks. And this could be Ahsoka's dreams, this could be in visions, this could be helping casual audiences understand who Ahsoka is in the grander scheme of Star Wars, linking it to George Lucas' Star Wars. And also just like the scene in Star Wars Rebels where she shows Ezra her master, there could be that kind of thing with Sabine, and she tells Sabine all about him. Ahsoka has a lot of things to say about Anakin, and that could be a way flashbacks are triggered. And don't forget the way the recent trailer name drops Anakin. Baylan once upon a time knew him during the Clone Wars. And even in Baylan's updated databank entry, they mention Anakin there. They mention that while Baylan once upon a time knew who Anakin was, he is no longer a Jedi, and he believes a war is coming. I can't wait to learn more about these connections because they seem very significant. So as I say, there's a strong chance Anakin is going to appear in this one. In other Ahsoka news, we have some more promotional photos for the show. These are going to be the template for cardboard cutouts, and Natasha as Sabine completely captures the essence of this character. Others include Hera, Rosario as Ahsoka, and Chopper. In other Star Wars news, Lucasfilm are starting to tie the events of Return of the Jedi and The Mandalorian together, the third installment of From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi, which is an anthology of short stories told from the point of view of various characters in those films. The one for episode 6 is coming out soon, and one of those stories focuses on Bib Fortuna, his aspirations to take over Jabba's palace, and the true hate he had for the heart in his heart. Even though he was a suck-up, he was a sycophant, deep inside, he was tired, he was fed up, and he wanted power of his own, which of course, after surviving the sail barge, he did, before Boba Fett came and took over, as we see in the Mandalorian Season 2 post-credit scene. An announcement from the Twitter account Star Wars Books has outlined one of the titular points of view that's going to be included in this book, which connects Return of the Jedi to the Mandalorian second season. The title of the short story is Fortuna Favors the Bold and was written by Kwame Mbalia. and also takes inspiration from Star Wars Legends, where there were several survivors of the sail barge. In canon, we know there was Bib Fortuna. They kind of tease Salacious Crumb might still be alive, but in the Book of Boba Fett we also saw Max Rebo. He left the sail barge before it exploded. He sensed something was wrong, he heard someone scream, and so he left. Here is the blurb. 762 items on Bib Fortuna's list of things he hated, and right at the top, sitting on his throne surrounded by sycophants and servants, was his master Jabba the Hutt, and Bib was going to kill him today. Of course it ended up being Princess Leia who killed him, but there may have been occasions where Bib tried to assassinate Jabba before. Now the question of how Bib Fortuna specifically took the throne is not yet known. That being said, it's highly likely that Mbalia's story from the upcoming anthology novel is going to answer this. After Jabba's death in episode 6, it seems as though the Twi'lek simply took advantage of the power vacuum that came with Jabba's death. While it makes far more sense for another Hutt to take over, Fortuna's distaste for Jabba, and likely Hutts in general, means he took Jabba's organization for his own and barred future Hutts from arriving. But of course in the Book of Boba Fett, once Boba Fett took over, the Hutt twins, Jabba's cousins, did seek to take over the fortune and the empire of Tatooine. I'm excited for this book. I'll certainly comment on some excerpts once the book is out. There are some other really cool stories as well, but one of the ones that really stood out to me is the testimony from the Imperial Royal Guard, one of those closest to Palpatine, and you get an insight into their psyche, specifically their obedience, how they don't have a sense of self without serving the Emperor. So that's going to be an interesting read too. And so finally, my dear friends, Jon Favreau has likened Skeleton Crew episodes to the diversity of themes in the Clone Wars series. He talks about the various genres, saying how some are noir and dark, others are more comedic, and we're gonna see the same thing in Skeleton Crew. He praises Watts and Ford, but also goes on to say, the series is gonna be a deviation from The Mandalorian. It's gonna be similar in the sense of there are gonna be various directors, and we recently found out Bryce Dallas Howard, one of my favorite directors in Star Wars right now, is going to be directing one episode of the show. But we can expect some versatility of what the show is giving us. This comes after comments by Jude Law, where he said that while it's going to be fun and silly, he used the word goofy more specifically I should say, he did mention a darker undertone. Some things are going to be dark, especially for a show that does centre around children. He also says at times it's scary, and that's why I think it'd be a great thing if it still came out around Halloween or just afterwards in November, because that would be too close to the Ahsoka show. But given what's going on with the strikes, given the delays, I don't think Skeleton Crew is going to be this year. I think that's 2024 now. I reckon Ahsoka is going to be the last live action show of this year. But what do you guys think? And so just before I go, my dear friends, community time. On the community tab, I asked you guys which clone death was the most heartbreaking. I only gave you a few options, but I also gave an other option because there are so many in canon. Now surprisingly, Tech did not get the most votes. As of the making of this video, it was 5s. That was a heartbreaking arc. After he saw what happened with Tup, he went investigating the inhibitor chips. Season 6 is so underrated. And of course, no one believed him. Shark T gave him something of an out, but Anakin didn't believe him, Rex didn't believe him, and he refused to stand down. He seemed crazy, but he wasn't. So I can understand how 5's death was really tragic, why a lot of fans think it was the most heartbreaking. The second choice though, the option that came second, is Tech, 33% of voters. Now Tech's death was really unexpected. I didn't see it coming, honestly. And as I've said before, I think season 3 of The Bad Batch next year is going to be extremely painful to watch. I don't see many of them making it. Other than Omega, but I think Hunter's death, if it happens, is going to be tragic. Share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.